Jeriel from Ocala, Florida. How should Christians think through the new administration's changes to our country's immigration policy? More specifically, how should the church respond lovingly, biblically to our neighbors who are illegal immigrants? Okay. I talk about this on the briefing. I certainly did at great length after the first iteration of President Trump's immigration policy. This isn't easy, but one of the things we need to recognize is that the church is called to minister to people wherever we encounter those people. We are called to minister to persons regardless of their citizenship, regardless of their legal status. And I think here's good news. I think most Christians would know. If somebody's hungry and we have the opportunity to feed them, we must feed them. If somebody is naked, we have the opportunity to clothe them, we must clothe them. Someone has the need of shelter, we have that opportunity, we need to meet it. But we also understand that every nation has to have a set of laws on immigration. One of my frustrations right now is that just in the last 24 hours, I've seen in almost every newspaper an article saying that the enforcement of immigration laws is going to cause very real human pain. Well, of course it will. I mean, in other words, saying no to anyone for any reason is going to cause very real pain. And especially a nation that has not enforced its immigration laws, or certainly with any consistency, or for that matter, sanity, for a generation, is in a very bad position now all of a sudden to say, we're going to apply these laws. But a nation that doesn't have sane laws and doesn't expect those laws to be enforced and respected, won't long be a nation. So we've got to respect that the nation has a responsibility, the government has a responsibility, and Christians should be a part of that conversation about where those lines should be drawn, where the guidelines should be set, how citizenship should be recognized, and what kind of immigration and refugee policy should be put in place that is responsible for the nation, that is faithful to American principles, American ideals, and to our government's responsibility to protect and even to define the nation. That's very important. The church's responsibility, however, is not limited at all by citizenship. And this is where I think too many Christians are conflating the two. That our nation's immigration policy sets our ministry. That's not the case. Our ministry is set by going to all the world and preach the gospel. And in other words, we don't minister just on that basis. But we should respect the laws of the country. And even as we're engaged in those laws and trying to make sure those laws are most just and most righteous, we also have to work within those laws. So I'm not sure I've clarified this a whole lot, other than to say every Christian and every church needs to minister to persons regardless of their status according to the law. But that does not mean that we don't respect the rule of the government and the rule of law. And so that doesn't mean that we can take upon ourselves the definition of their status over against the laws of the country in terms of residence. It also means that we do want to be a part of a nation that responsibly deals with needs around the world. But we also understand the government has a responsibility to define how it believes those needs can and should be met and what our national role is. That's different than the church's role. In the same way, we don't look to the state to tell us what our mission strategy should be. We shouldn't look to the state to tell us what our strategy to reach persons regardless of their citizenship should be. And so it's very complicated. If there were an easy way to just say, this is how we should do it, or even if it were easy to say, this is what our immigration laws should be, well, that would be a different situation. And the reality is, even people in the same party, even people who would agree on the same platform statement, are not at all sure exactly how that is to be enacted in law and then enforced in reality. So we're in for a very long national conversation. Let's remember that immigration has been of controversy in this country since 1776, intensely since the late 19th century, throughout the entirety of the 20th century. And so this is an ongoing conversation. It's an ongoing, very urgent conversation in Europe and in other nations as well. We need to remember, in large parts of the world, there really is no such conversation because immigration into the country is really not a part of the culture. It's not according to law, and it's not a part of what they understand to be their mandate. So we're looking at a global situation, and how much brokenness do we detect in the world around us? I mean, we're talking about more than 4 million refugees from the Syrian conflict alone. That's a very daunting reality. It makes us yearn for Jesus and for the day in which these problems will cease to be. Until then, Christians have a gospel mandate. And nations have their own responsibility and their own sphere of sovereignty. And working out how that's related, that's going to be with fear and trembling.